For those of you who do not know me, or not local maybe, I'm Rick Bradshaw. I'm the sheriff here in Palm Beach County. Here's how this is going to go, all right? Some ground rules and the format. Ground rules are, we're going to give you all the information we can. Because there's some ongoing aspects to this investigation, the detectives are not going to get into the intricacies of it. So if you got some questions that are going to speak right to the intricacies of the investigation, save yourself some time and effort. Don't ask them because they're not going to answer it. Okay? Be respectful of everybody here. Don't ask a question at the same time. Let's have some order about this. And after we conclude the press conference, if there's some other interviews that you want to do it with some individuals, contact Terry Barbera and she will facilitate that. So I'm going to open this up, then I'm going to turn it over to the State Attorney, David Ehrenberg, who's here with me, and then we'll have the detective walk you through it, and then we'll give you a chance to answer some questions. Everybody okay with that? Yeah. All right, we're going to get moving here. So good morning, thank you for being here. This is an exceptional case that was 27 years old, solved with a great partnership between us, the State Attorney's Office, and the FBI. We had some other partners that we were involved with to make the arrest up in Virginia, and we appreciate them. But this was a tenacious effort on the part of the cold case detectives and the people from the State Attorney's Office and the FBI. During the last year, I think we've solved 6 or 7 cold cases. Cold cases are very difficult to solve. That's why the national average is around 1 or 2. So to solve these cases takes an extraordinary effort, great teamwork between prosecutors, crime labs, and everybody that's involved in it. So we're extremely proud of the effort that was put in. And now I'll let the State Attorney, David Ehrenberg, say a few words. They are one of our partners in this, and we have an outstanding relationship with the State Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff Bradshaw, and thank you for being here today. I do want to recognize the partnership that we have with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. It is that partnership that has led to this day, and I want to give great credit to PBSO and their nationally recognized lab with top-notch professionals, experts at DNA and other technological advances. It was these technological advances that have helped crack this case, and hopefully will bring justice to the family of Marlene Warren. As State Attorney, it's our office that will be prosecuting this case, and I'm limited to what I can say because this is a pending matter, but I can let you know that the defendant in this case, Miss Sheila Keene Warren, has been indicted for first-degree murder with a firearm. The potential penalty in this case is life in prison and potentially the death penalty. An announcement on whether or not the death penalty will be sought will not be until the defendant is returned to the jurisdiction. The prosecutors in this case will be Chief Assistant State Attorney Brian Fernandez and Reed Scott, 2 of our finest prosecutors, and Reed is in the Homicide Division. Both of them were involved with the arrest, and I again want to thank the cooperation and partnership with the PBSO. Hopefully we can bring justice to this family, and we'll be working hard together in the days ahead. Thank you.
And again, that's one of the reasons that we're very careful on what we're talking about here, because the next stage of this, obviously, is prosecution. We don't know if there will be anybody else charged in this. That remains to be seen. But we want to make sure that we do everything that we possibly can to make sure that the prosecution is successful. So we're going to limit our answers to specific questions. But having said that, I will give you the lead detective, and she's going to walk you through this.
Good morning. So basically, you all know the facts of the case, but I'll just kind of run down them. On May 26, 1990, Marlene Warren was at her residence, which was out in the Aero Club. She was home with her son and several of his friends. A vehicle pulled up in the driveway. They noticed someone dressed as a clown exit the vehicle and approach the front door. Marlene answered the front door, and the clown had 2 balloons as well as a bouquet of flowers, and went to hand Marlene those items. And as she went to receive those items, she commented, "How nice." It was at that time that the clown pulled out a gun and shot Marlene in the face. She was transported to the hospital, where she died 2 days later. The witnesses at the scene said that the clown just turned around, walked back to the car, got into the white Chrysler LeBaron, and just drove away very calmly. The detectives, during the initial investigation, developed some people of interest, one being Sheila Keene. It was rumored that Sheila Keene and Michael Warren were having an affair. We now have learned since then that they have married, and they are currently married. And they were living in the Tennessee, Virginia area. The detectives during the initial investigation, Detective Bill Williams and the rest of his team did a phenomenal job documenting the entire case, as well as collecting and preserving the crime evidence from the crime scene. I like to say that in cold cases, we have a big puzzle, and some of the pieces are already filled in, and a lot of it was already filled in by the thorough investigation done by the initial detectives. We just needed a few of those little pieces of the puzzle, and we were able to do that with the new technologies in DNA, and we were able to complete the puzzle, and I think that's what led to the indictment. I would like to definitely thank members of the State Attorney's Office. This case was reopened in 2014. I began reviewing it as a cold case. We kind of formed a little task force with members of the State Attorney's Office and the FBI, and we went back and interviewed numerous witnesses. We had to locate and find them and then interview numerous witnesses. We reviewed the evidence. We were able to submit new evidence for DNA analysis, and in doing so, we were able to get the indictment. We learned that they lived in Virginia, had a house in Virginia and Tennessee. We did make contact with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, who they assisted, as well as the Washington County Sheriff's Office, as well as the U.S. Marshals. And it was a collaborative effort between all these agencies that led to the arrest of Sheila Keene Warren.
Are any other arrests likely?
The case is still ongoing, and we will definitely work diligently to determine if anyone else was involved.
Can you talk about, not just this case, in the bigger picture, the sheriff talked about, I'm sure the state attorney will talk about, the advancements in the technology that allow you to be able to solve this kind of case, and specifically, what in the bigger picture does that allow you to do, and how far you've come in that area?
That was a lot of questions. Back in 1990, I believe back then they just had ABO typing and things like that. So now we have nuclear DNA, we have touch DNA, we have mitochondrial DNA, and all of those things together allow us to be able to test items that weren't able to be tested back in 1990. So it has definitely led us to be able to solve a lot of our cold cases through the advances in technology.
You mentioned a relationship between the two of them. Was there a relationship, if you can say, at the time period where the defendant allegedly committed this act, between the husband and the defendant?
People had been interviewed, and there was statements that they too were involved. However, both had denied being involved in a relationship at the time of the murder.
Is Mike Warren still considered a potential suspect?
The case is still ongoing.
What was her demeanor when detectives approached her? I mean, it's been 27 years. People forget, and sometimes their memory isn't the same. So was she under duress when she realized that this door was closing on her past?
I don't believe that I would say she was under duress. I believe it was more of a nonchalant attitude.
I mean, she smiled in her booking photo.
Yes.
Was that a surprise to any of the detectives?
No.
Can you reiterate what she said before she shot her and what the balloon said?
One balloon said, "You're the greatest," and the other one, I believe, was a Snow White balloon, and said something to the effect of, "Oh, how nice."
Now, can you, part of the investigation was balloons were bought and that was able, how were you able to determine that the store was close to Keen's home? Can you walk us through that?
They were able to, detectives during the initial investigation were able to determine that the same balloons and flower arrangement was purchased at a Publix, which was about 6/10 to a mile away from where Sheila Keen's apartment was at the time.
Purchased just before the murder?
Yes, the same day, yes.
Can you say when you found out that Keen and Warren got married?
When they got married, I believe it was, they waited till 2002 to get married.
Did a PBSO know, the detectives know then that they got married, or was it after the fact?
After the fact. Yeah, because they, in 1990, I believe it wasn't until 2002 that they actually got married. So the detectives who worked the initial case would not have known that.
Given all the evidence that you had back in 1990, do you understand why she couldn't have been prosecuted then, that it just wasn't quite over the line?
Yes, that obviously is the decision of the state attorney's office, and if they don't believe that there's sufficient evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, then you get basically one shot. If you roll that dice and you take that chance and she's found not guilty, then she never can be charged again. So sometimes just patience is the best.
Besides DNA, is there any other key piece of evidence you can talk about now that really insert to the crime?
I cannot.
Can you tell us what was found inside of the Chrysler LeBaron?
I cannot.
What prompted you to reopen the case in 2014?
In 2014, we basically had received a grant, and so we were going back and reviewing a lot of the unsolved cases. We have quite a few, and so we went back to review them, and this was just one of the cases that I picked up to review.
Are you able to say, without giving too much away, what aspects of the DNA technology enabled you to come up with enough evidence at this point?
I cannot.
Can you also tell us that Chrysler was also reported stolen from Mike Warren's business?
The Chrysler LeBaron was a rent-a-car from a Payless Rent-A-Car, which was a different business from Mike Warren's business, which was Bargain Motors. The people who had rented the car had seen an ad in the newspaper, and they went to try and return the car early. Michael Warren's business had had Payless in his ad as well, so the people became confused and called the number, thinking it was Payless, but it was actually Bargain Motors. And somebody at Bargain Motors answered the phone and told them to leave the car and to leave the keys there. They did so, and that's when Michael Warren and Sheila Keen Warren and another individual went and picked up the car.
Can you say the last time?
No.
Can you say the last time you interviewed Mike Warren?
2 days ago. Yesterday, matter of fact.
Yeah.
Maybe it was yesterday.
Yes, true.
Sorry, it's been a long couple of days.
And can you share anything?
No.
What article was your DNA found for her to?
I can't discuss that.
Can you say who you re-interviewed and say re-interviewed witnesses?
I cannot.
Can you confirm or deny whether or not hair was found inside of the LeBaron?
I cannot.
When your team reached out to
We're going to stop it right there because we're getting into real technical questions about the case, which we said we're not going to answer. All right, so I'm going to make just a couple more comments. Yes.
Sheriff, just in the bigger picture, message for your community
Yep.
about other families out there
Yeah, and
that
that-
have unsolved crimes that have lasted for years and
Right.
what it stands for.
Right, and that's where I'm going with this. To put it in kind of perspective, to close this up, you were talking about the technology. The difference is, remember the days when we had the cell phones that were about this wide, like a brick? And now we got smartphones that you can do everything on? That's the difference between the technology back when this happened and today. It's exponentially so much better to assist us in making sure that we have the right person, which goes back to the question of, what about the evidence at that point in time? There's one thing to think somebody did something. There's another thing to know that they did it and be able to prove it in court. We want to make sure we got the right person, because if we don't have the right person, number one, we don't want to put an innocent person in jail, but number two, the real perpetrator is still out there, and we don't want that to happen. All right? So this is why these cases are important. Now, to your question, what's important to the community? There's a lot of reasons that this is important to the community. Number one, to give closure to the victim's family of any homicide, regardless of what it is. I think we have almost 300 cold cases still outstanding. And there was a gentleman back here that says, well, do you think that the people that were involved in this one kind of forgot about the whole thing? Well, I can tell you one thing. We will never forget about any of these 300 cases. And that's what the families of the victims of these cases need to know. That every single day, these cold case detectives are working to find these people. And the other thing that the community needs to know, especially the people who perpetrated these crimes, we will find out who did this in these cases. We will. And then once we do, we will find out where you are, and we will come and find you. I don't care where you're at. It could be in the United States. It'll be in another country. We will come and find you. We've gone out of the country to find other people that have committed crimes. But that's the message to the families. We won't forget you. And to the people that perpetrated this, we're going to come and get you. So they're not going to forget it because we're not going to forget it. And that's the message that the community needs to take away from this. So that's it for the press conference here. We appreciate you showing up. There's a lot more to be done on this. It's ongoing. And as developments happen, we'll let you know if there's anything further in this. Thank you very much.